So, I just found out that apparently it's a new year? Did you guys know about this? Yeah, I thought it was just gonna be 2023 forever, but apparently we've moved on to 2024. Are you serious? I played a lot of video games this year. Most of them were pretty good. Most of them. And today we're gonna be going over 5 of the best and worst and everything in between. 2 quick disclaimers before we get started. First of all, these are all games that I got around to playing in 2024, not necessarily those that were actually released this year. And second of all, I understand that my opinions are a little bit unpopular sometimes, so if I give a rating you seriously disagree with, I'm very sorry and I'll never do it again, and I'll buy you ice cream if you forgive me, and please don't shoot an RPG at my face. I say all this because it wasn't until I checked the scores on Metacritic that I realized I might not have everyone on my side here. But I already made the whole video, so it's too late to fix it now. Oh well. For example... one of the most viewed videos up on my channel right now is my roasting of Sonic Frontiers. But for how harsh I was in that video, I don't hate the Sonic franchise. Sonic Adventure 2 had a wild soundtrack and slick level design that you could glide through if you knew what you were doing. The original Sonic is a little dated these days, but still overall a good time. And the Sonic 06 fan remake proves that if they just left the original in the oven a little longer, it probably would have gone down in history as one of the greatest platformers of all time. Instead of, you know, going down in history as... Sonic Superstars is not like that. It is bland. Like lukewarm water bland. It's like the original old-school Sonics for the Genesis, but minus the cool pixel art and minus the part where I don't want to die when I play it. The highlight of this game was World 8 Act 3, which is the part where you suddenly remember you have absolutely no obligation to play this trash and can throw it out and switch to Tony Hawk instead. Actually, no, the real highlight of Sonic Superstars is when I went to pick it up at GameStop and the guy behind the counter shot me the weirdest grin I've ever seen and told me something I'll never forget. Hey, by the way, is Glasbada got his Badars Badir? So you're gonna have a market elf. Now, I don't know what that means because I'm not one of the Sims, but I assume it was probably something along the lines of, hey, by the way, this game is like a $60 scam, basically, so you should probably hang on to that receipt. See you tomorrow! My mama always said No Man's Sky is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. But it will probably be disturbing. The sheer scope of this game is complete bananas. The number of planets is so huge, I literally don't know what it means. And you can just seamlessly hop onto your spaceship and blast off to the next one without even a suggestion of a loading screen. All the animals and plants are procedurally generated by the most inhuman algorithm ever dreamt up. And it's totally up to fate if you're gonna get adorable little guys I would keep as a pet, or horrifying vessels of disgust stolen from the nightmares of some supervillain. This is wrong. I should not be allowed to see this. T for teen is not an appropriate rating here. This should be rated S for spiders, because that's what I feel crawling all over me whenever this thing is on my screen. But that's kind of the problem. Exploring the horror of procedural generation is kind of the only interesting thing about No Man's Sky. For me personally, no game has ever bested Minecraft in terms of survival mechanics, and this one isn't even coming close. Mostly because in Minecraft, there are actually things to do. It's a constant flow of finding new resources and upgrading your base, slaying different monsters to grab their loot and building new and creative structures. The most creative base I built in No Man's Sky was a giant wooden box with a furnace inside. And the only thing there really is to do is scour a barren landscape looking for new monsters and then slaughter all those that are abominations. If you want a game of unparalleled exploration, survival, and creativity, then I'm sorry, but Minecraft still reigns supreme. On the other hand, if you really want to trip out on a very rancid flavor of fear, you got it. And honestly, I kind of understand. Ori and the Blind Forest is a good game. That's all. It's not a masterpiece, it's not Game of the Year, but I liked it. The only Metroidvania I'm really familiar with is the Metroid Prime Remaster, a game that I cannot finish because I am too dumb. But Ori has given me a completely different experience, mostly due to how unearthly beautiful it is. Even on the Switch, this game is gorgeous. The backgrounds, the animation, the music, there's just so much to soak in here. But focusing on the visuals really doesn't do the gameplay any justice. You start out like any other platformer with a single jump, but as you unlock new moves either in the skill tree or by discovering them in the world, you eventually end up with a total mastery of the air and what feels like a limitless number of jumps as you wall jump, dash, parry, glide, and blatantly disrespect Isaac Newton. One of the more unique things about this game is actually something I had a bit of trouble with: the checkpoints. Or, I guess, lack of them. Instead of checkpoints setting automatically after a stretch of platforms, Ori actually leaves it up to the player to mark their own respawn points. And that's just too much responsibility to give me. The part of my brain reserved for remembering to pause and save has long since been replaced with memorizing Mario Kart shortcuts, and it gets really frustrating having my progress erased because I forgot to save. But then again, I guess I can't really blame the game for me being a big Dumbo. Bad news, guys. You know the Emperor? Well, he's dead. And get this, he gave me his amulet and told me that unless I bring it post-haste to his closest living relative, the entire Earth will be overcome by the forces of evil, bringing annihilation to the human species and turning the entire planet into a burning wasteland. Bummer, dude.
Deidre overran Kvatch last night. There were glowing portals outside the walls, gates to oblivion itself.
Can you help me find my lost jumbo potatoes?
Yeah, I got nothing else to do right now. At just $4 on a Steam sale, Oblivion has got to have one of the highest cost to entertainment ratios I've ever experienced. Almost entirely because of some really creative side quests. My favorite being the different factions you can join and rank up in. The Thieves Guild is definitely the most useful club to join, since you can bribe your way out of prison and also make bank off of stolen items, but the Cult of Assassins known as the Dark Brotherhood is undeniably the most entertaining questline. In this quest, for example, I've been sent to a mansion where I'll have to blend in with and assassinate everyone without getting caught. This would be pretty challenging, if not for the fact that each of my victims is unimaginably oblivious, frankly bordering on brain damaged. The very first thing I do upon entry is immediately alert the first person I see to my true identity, then kill someone right in front of her so she knows I'm serious, and she still can't seem to figure out who the assassin is.
With 2 people dead, it almost seems like he set this party up just to kill us all. Don't go far. Oh, thank goodness it's you, sweetie. Please don't wander too far away. I feel safe with you.
I feel safe with you.
We've got to get out of here. You understand me? We're the only ones left. We need to find a way out of this house. Come on!
Now I want you to think really hard about this, okay, Mathilde? If there's only 2 people left, and you aren't the murderer, then the murderer must be... Any guesses?
It's you. Oh, gracious, no. Stay away from me. I accept your surrender.
With how often I've been up till 3 in the morning killing dudes and climbing stuff, God of War Ragnarok owes me like 13 days of sleep. While it does take a minute or 2 for the action to really start up, once it does, it goes completely double backflip mega bonanza mode, which roughly translates to Kratos dog sled races out of a collapsing forest, then launches into a death brawl with the grizzly bear, immediately followed by a Monday Night Raw smackdown against the God of Thunder, all within the first half hour of gameplay. The story of Ragnarok is one of the best I've ever seen in a video game. Basically, this guy Kratos finds an axe, so he cuts everybody's head off. Then everybody else in the world gets all salty about it, so he cuts their heads off too. It's all based on true historical events. Nah, but for real, the story is intense. And not just because the set pieces and action are non-stop, over-the-top, bombastic, fantastic. It's way too long for a top 5 segment for me to fully explain, but I will say this to summarize. You remember that episode of The Amazing World of Gumball where he sees a prophecy that he's gonna be naked on live television, but everything he does to avoid that future only takes him closer and closer to his doom? That's kind of like this, except with more giant monsters and a bunch of people dying and the world is ending and I almost cried. And it looks even more cinematic with these incredible graphics. This is the game that PS5 was made for, folks. You can see the sun ray tracing off of Kratos' bald noggin. It's honestly up there with Elden Ring and Stray competing for the shiniest game ever made. If Ragnarok had beautiful visuals, I could say that looks aren't everything. If it had exhilarating boss fights, I could say the story is what counts. If it had grounded and realistic characters with great chemistry and emotional plot points, I could say the gameplay is more important. But it has all three, so it's out of my hands. Alright, from here on out, no more jokes. There's one game this year that absolutely blew me away so powerfully, I had to talk about it. Chants of Sennaar tells a gripping story about communication, mistrust, and isolation without saying even one real word. You wake up as a mysterious hooded figure on an enormous tower trying to get to the top, but each level is a new civilization speaking an entirely different brand of hieroglyphics. So you have to thoroughly speak to everyone you come across and examine every scrap of words you can to piece together what's going on and how you can progress. The languages are so well constructed that on my second time through, I didn't even have to translate them. I just read them as actual words. Someone hit me with the... and I just understood and did exactly what he was asking. It's honestly the best game mechanic I can think of, and it complements the story so well. After you decipher a language at least well enough to figure out how to leave, you climb to the next level of the tower and find out that everything your new friends told you about their neighbors was wrong. Not completely wrong, just looked at with the wrong lens. And as you meet new peoples and translate for them, you start to establish harmony and understanding amongst the civilizations. Then you finally get hit with this bombardment of intense twists showing how and why you got here. The reveal of the true threat all along, your final quest that launches things in an entirely new direction, and then an ending that shook me to my core. This game is miraculous. I absolutely adored it. 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, the best a game can get. But I really don't know how much of that came from the actual overall quality of the game itself, rather than my personal preference. And I don't know if anyone else will share my enthusiasm enough to justify the title of Game of the Year. If it doesn't sound like your thing, more power to you. But to this guy, it's the perfect length, the perfect mechanics, the perfect story. Everything here felt like it was tailor-made for Yeshio himself. The walking speed is a little slow, there are puzzles in here that don't really fit, but come on, man, cut it out. This is what video games are supposed to be. I never get this emotional during a review, and I almost never make a whole segment with zero jokes, so if you're wondering if this game is fantastic, stop wondering.